So, Customer Insights is a standalone product from Microsoft. It allows you, in essence, to bring data from various segmented platforms into one application. So then, from that one application, understand your customers or understand the purchases of those customers and build a better profile for those customers in one area. It's a prepackaged tool that enables you to pull through customer data into one location, as I just mentioned. And in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how easy that is to do and how easy it is to build that out, because you've previously in the past there was lots of applications, and to do stuff like this and this kind of technology was not around. So now with this customer insight platform, it's a really easy tool to just quickly get up and running, ingest some data and build a better picture and a 360-degree kind of view of your customers, what they're purchasing, and the outcome from that would be better engagement as an organization. As a retail organization, you'll better understand your customers to then be able to interact with them, send them kind of meaningful marketing material about products they've purchased or recommendations. The beauty of this is it's got AI and other bits and pieces built in, which I will touch on in the demonstration. So who's it good for? You might be asking, who will this work for, and can it be beneficial to us? Well, anyone that wants to understand their customers better. It is as simple as that. So anyone that wants to get a 360-degree view of their customers. So lots of organizations nowadays have different silos, and those silos may be dealing with, or maybe even competing with one another for the same kind of customers, or they may have customers in one application over here, another department might be using another application over there, and then there may be some crossover, or there may be some completely different customers in each. The beauty of this application is you can pull that information from those siloed applications into customer insights. You can ingest it in there, and then you can manipulate it in there and understand, you get one source of the truth to understand your customers better. And then the outcome from that is, which I love this slide, by the way, is you can ingest it into things like Power Apps or Dynamics 365 customer engagement, so a CRM system, for example. So what I wanted to do is just run through this slide before I go into the demonstration and actually show you what the system looks like, how it functions, and how some of the key areas work. But in essence, you've got data. So this is what I was just talking about. You've got different silos in the business. You may have data sitting in lots of segmented systems. You want a way to kind of consolidate that data and understand, who's that associated to, what customer does this particular purchase refer to. So you start with data. You push the data into the system via connectors, which I'm going to show you in a second, and show you what they look like and how easy that is to do. And then when it's in the application, when it's in customer insights, you've got these kind of 4 pillars here. There are other bits and pieces that string together, but these are the kind of 4 main components. So you ingest the data in from a source. That could be some website purchases. That could be a POS terminal, so a physical terminal in a retail store. So you ingest that data into customer insights. From there, you then map and match that information, so you can then build it against a single profile, so you kind of match it up to an individual customer, for example. You've got then enrich and conflate. So again, I'll talk about these when I dive into the demo. Moving over to the insight section on the right hand side here. So once that's all in the system and you've done all those little bits and pieces to kind of match up the data and kind of sort through it so it's in a good state to go through, you can then analyze the data. So you can run analytics against it. You can run measures and segments to understand that data, basically manipulate the data in the system from all these different sources to get one version of the truth. You've also got some AI in there as well, so you can enable that to extend the functionality. That's again the beauty of this application. And then you've got actionable bits and pieces. So from the information being ingested into customer insights, you can play about with the data, match it to one customer profile, so one version of the truth, and then you can kind of push it elsewhere. So you can push it to something like CRM and have a view within CRM to understand maybe purchases and other bits and pieces. Again, I'm going to show you this later as well. Power BI, and also you can create Power Automate, so your own application to view the data and give other people access to it, for example. And then you can use things like bots, web, and other bits and pieces. So I'm going to dive into the demo now and just walk you through the application, just show you some of the features of it, and just to give you a good look and feel of how it works. Brilliant. So I've now opened up Customer Insights and I'm on my home page. So notice on the home page, there are a few segmentations that I've created. Bearing in mind, before I get into this actually, that this is a demo that I've set up myself, so I quite easily set this up with a few hours worth of work. Ingested some data from multiple sources, and I've created this environment. This particular environment and this scenario that I'm about to demo for you is around Contoso Coffee, a company that specializes in coffee and tea and other bits and pieces. So you can see on this main screen that I've come into the application. You've got some summer promos, some basically some segments that I've created. We'll talk about these a bit later, and you've also got some measures down here. What I'm going to do is take you through the process of kind of ingesting the data, show you what that looks like, and then I'm going to go into the customer profile so you can see how it all strings together to get a good understanding of how the application works. So what I want to do on the left-hand pane here, here's your main navigation ribbon. So to get from A to B, this is where you would come into the application and move around. What I'm going to do is start with the data and data sources. So when you get the application out of the box, vanilla, this is going to be absolutely blank. So you're going to want to ingest data from various different sources. And obviously in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one that I made earlier. So this is the Contoso coffee scenario that I just mentioned. And here's various data sources that I've brought into the system. So you can see here's some e-commerce, there's some loyalty scheme, there's some POS purchases, there's some website data there, and then I've also ingested some data in from CRM. So what I'll do, instead of going into the data and showing you what that looks like, I'm just going to kind of show you some of the connections and some of the types of data that you can kind of bring in. So if I go to import data and then I click next, let's hit test. And here's it will show you a list of kind of connection types that you can use to bring data into the application. Just an FYI, this is changing on a regular basis. So Microsoft are investing lots of time and effort into the application to enhance and build this. So there's more native functionality to plug in other applications and other sources. But you can see here, just to give you a feel for it, you've got some tabs at the top: file, database, platform, Azure, online services. So think of this as where your data's sitting in the application. If it's an really old application, maybe 30, 40 years old, you might just want to take the information out via an Excel or an XML document and be able to just then ingest that into the system. Or if it's maybe a newer application that has newer APIs and whatnot, you can do that via these connection tools here. So very easy to do. You can literally just click on Excel file, paste in the URL or path, and ingest the data in like that. It is as simple as that. So that's the first port of call once you've got the application, is getting the data in the system. Once the data is in your system, you're going to want to unify that data. So if I click on the Unify section, the concept within Customer Insights, brilliant, message pops up just when I want it to work. Let's see if I can navigate away and go back in. Brilliant. So that's not working. But if it was, then the three core pillars here are map, match, and merge. And in essence, what this is doing is you're pulling the data in the system. So what we've just done on data sources, we pulled in data from various different sources. And now we want to unify that into one customer profile. So in this area, what you would normally do is you'd map them to an individual. You'd then match those records up. You can see, brilliant, it's loading. So you can see here, e-commerce contacts, you've got some loyalty customers here. You can then go through and start matching those individuals. And you can see here, we've got unique customers, we've got 5,000, and then we've matched 4,000 records. So you can go in here and you can start matching up those records. And there's lots of bits and pieces you can do when you go to match your records. You can add rules in there as well, so you can see here the loyalty customers that are matching up to the primary e-commerce contact records are matching on full name in the email. So this is a big point about the application, that previously when you had all these different systems with different contacts sitting all over the place, to be able to match them up, you need like a unique GUID or something, a unique reference number behind the scenes that can match them up. And obviously each system would normally produce a separate unique reference. But the beauty of this is you don't need to worry about those. You can just bring in their names and as much information as you'd like to bring into customer insights, and then match them on things like email, because obviously the email is going to be unique, right? First name, last name. I mean, that might not always be unique, but when you go into these records, you can then start editing how they match. So you can see here I'm matching on full name. You can then see loyalty customers. So this is a separate data source or separate data that I've brought into customer insights, and I'm matching them both on full name. And then you can start doing a kind of how accurate do you want that match to be? Do you want it to be low, exact, medium? And obviously, the lower it is, the more matches you're going to get, but they may not be as accurate. And then you can, build out those conditions to be as specific or as light as you want. So let's cancel that. And then when you go into the merge section, this is where you will merge all that information that you've brought in from the data source area. You're going to match it to one customer profile. Obviously, if you've got two different systems, maybe a POS terminal and that's collating data for purchases in store, and then you've got web purchases. You're going to want to collate that information into one customer profile, but you're not necessarily going to want, two of the same email fields to that customer profile. So here's where you will kind of cut out duplicated fields and maybe just include the information that you want. So you can see these are all the fields that are included on the customer contact field that I've chosen. And you can see here, there's two first names there, obviously, in these two different data sources, and so on and so forth. So moving away from that, the data's in the system. We've then we've tinkered around with it a little bit, and we've matched it up to an individual profile. What you'll then want to start doing is create measures. So again, here's some that I've created earlier. The measures in effect are KPIs, so key performance indicators. And what these allow you to do is understand that data that is in a system better. And when you create a customer profile, which I'm about to go on to in a second, you'll be able to see these KPIs at a glance from that individual customer profile, which works brilliantly and it's amazing. So you can see here what we've got, like lifetime spend, we've got average web purchases. Let's just expand this quickly. Total club points, and you can create as many of these as you want very easily and very quickly. I'd like to emphasize that before, and other systems that you may have used, you might have to create code to manipulate this data. You might have to export it out and do something elsewhere. But the beauty of this is it's all done via this application. Very, very easy to do. You can create a new measure. If I just click into one of these, let's go to average web purchases. Let me see if it's going to let me edit it. Yes, it will. And in here, you can see I can quickly pull together that information and build out what I want to see. So you can see there's a data source. What am I looking at? And then you can go and then specify what you want that KPI to be. So if I go back to measures, if I click on them, as you just saw, it should, just give me a quick overview of what that actually amounts to. Segments. So moving up on the left-hand side here. So the segments are basically just a query against the data. So you can pull back a set of customers. So here you can see I've created two segments. So one's a summer promotion, and you've got obviously high value in-store customers. If I click into that and then hit edit, again, similar principle, I can then kind of start piecing together that information into to understand those customers better and bring back kind of those customers in a kind of segmented group based on whatever criteria I specify here. So you can build this out to be as complex or as simple as you want. This one's quite simple. As you can see, we're saying average store purchases are greater than 138, bring back all records, and then we can see that information in customer insights. So what I'm going to do now is after we've obviously ingested all this data, we've then manipulated the data, kind of made it, mapped it to one customer profile. We've then built some measures to kind of understand what that data looks like and map that against an individual customer profile. We've also created some segments. Now, what I'm going to do is click into customers and show you what it looks like from a customer perspective. So these are all the customers that are in this system. I can click into one like so, and this will bring me up, I personally think, a beautifully looking form that shows lots of information based on what we've just done. So you can see a name and some information about that individual. As I mentioned, if I included in the match section on Unify, if I included lots of duplications of the first and last name, they'd all be showing in here. Hence why I emphasize that you don't want those in there, and that part of the process is important, because you want this to look as clean and as concise as possible. So on the left-hand side here, you can see lots of information about this individual. On the right-hand side in the timeline section, you can see purchases. So again, this is putting together that information from those various different systems that we did at the start of the presentation into one consolidated view. So you can see in a nice view what this customer has purchased over a period of time. So you can see the dates, what product have they purchased, has it been in store, and so on and so forth. I really, really like the look of that, and I think it's really, really good. You can then run filters on it to kind of pinpoint certain purchases if you wanted to look at in-store or online purchases specifically. On the right-hand side here, you've got some interests and bits and pieces in there. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but that's just some additional functionality that the application allows you to have. As we talked about the measures, so you can see the measures that we've put in here that we created earlier have now been mapped to the contact card. So you can see average web purchase for this individual is 172. You can see average store purchase, club points, lifetime spend. So again, you can start building this out to understand your customers a lot better. So if I go back to customers, I can then do a search, and up the top here in this sub ribbon, should we call it, you can then do additional filters on your customers. So you can go and easily search for customers, you can sort through the customers, and so on and so forth. So that's a quick run through of the customer insights application. What I'm going to do is just show you some extended functionality with this application. So once you've put all the information in, and we've done all those bits and pieces to make it look nice, we've created one consolidated customer profile, and we've created some measures against that. What you can then do is start moving that to other areas, such as Dynamics 365 CE, so a CRM system, things like Power Apps or Power BI. I'm just going to quickly show you what that would look like. So what I'm going to do is just navigate for it. So this is Power BI. So this is ingesting the data from that application into now Power BI to then be able to manipulate that data in much more depth. So you can then come into Power BI if you're using that application and manipulate it as you see fit. I'm going to go into a slide in a second that talks about the differences between Power BI and customer insights, because that's a question that we get asked a lot. But for now, I'm just going to quickly go over to another Power App. So this is a Power App that we've created. So this is, again, pulling the information out from customer insights into an application which you can actually just use. You can give, if in a retail scenario, someone may have a tablet and be at front of store. They may want a nice application to be able to go in and quickly understand that customer. And here's an application that you can see for this particular individual. On the right hand side here, you've got those measures that we made in customer insights. So average store purchase, reward points. You can quickly see if they're a high value customer. That is absolutely brilliant, because obviously you're engaging with that customer there and then. It's a good bit of information to know. And on the left hand side here, you can do things like check that customer in. So if you click on that, you can make some recommendations, and it's just a nice proactive approach to kind of look after that customer and make sure they're okay. I'm just going to navigate back to the presentation and just show you what it looks like from a CRM perspective. So if you had this connected to CRM, you can on a contact card, On the right hand side here, you can see the customer insights timeline. So that information that we ingested and we manipulated in customer insights is being pulled through to the associated contact card within CRM. So you can quickly see that customer. You can see the information that's held against that customer within CRM. And then you can also see the purchases that we've ingested via customer insights. And this updates in real time. So, as that information's in customer insights, it will then push that over to the timeline in CRM, and you won't have to lift a finger. Once you've built that connection, which is nice and easy to do, it will just update. And then on the side, you've got like key performance indicators. So what we was talking about earlier about the measures, again, that information's all pulled through to the customer profile in CRM. So you get a really good understanding of what that customer's been doing, kind of what they've been purchasing, and you've also got demographics down there as well, if I could go into it as well. So as I mentioned, a question that we get asked quite often is how is it different to Power BI? There's quite a lot of reasons. I'm just going to touch on a few things here. So obviously you can create the KPIs and the measures, which is something you can't do in the Power BI. So you can manipulate the data on a different level to that of what you would do in Power BI. It includes obviously segmentation capability. It's got pre-built controls to include data for 365 and third-party app. The segmentation capability, which Power BI doesn't have, it obviously includes pre-built controls, so you can extend the functionality to other applications. Very quick and easy to use.